talk about that a little bit? I know that
Okay.
that's part of your story, and I know that because you're here in Austin, Texas area, and I know professionally that you have to sort of guard a
Yes.
little bit some of that. So but I think that's a really important part of your story. And I think people that maybe are going through a similar thing, a shamanic initiation, or they're kind of like cracked wide open and they're very vulnerable, and they don't always like realize what's happening to them, or they don't even realize that they're vulnerable. So they do start reaching out to help and for help. And we're still living in times where it's evolving. There's not really strong sort of like mentorship and elder people that are on a shamanic path still. They're few and far between. They're hard to find. And so people do reach out to maybe like a shamanic practitioner or somebody that's saying that they're a shaman, and they don't really know. Because how do you vet these people? You don't really know. So in your circumstance, I know that you had done that, and that was, I think, one of your initial contacts, sort of, wasn't it? And yes, and you talked about how that harmed you. And can we go into that a little bit, just so you can share?
Yes. Now that is the part of my story that was probably just personally the most, probably even one of the most damaging things that I went through, and I have to just be honest, like I wish I could change that part, because when I was going through it actually, when I reached out to a couple of people for help, it ended up like really harming me more and making me more confused, and then it also just sort of discredited me personally. So because it was almost just, the term I use for it is that I was already so open and vulnerable. And Amy, you're exactly right. I don't think I realized how vulnerable I was, because part of the time I felt fantastic. I felt like I was, on top of the world. So I was like, I'm good. Like I don't need to, go into an inpatient setting, or I don't need any help like that, because I'm great. In fact, I'm better than ever. And I can talk to all these beings and stuff like that. So I was, at times I was pretty like elevated, like myself was. I was pretty grandiose and thinking I was like pretty amazing. And that's the way I understand it, is that's a really like typical and understanding kind of part of the breaking open process, because that's the first time that you're touching like the oneness and the kind of just the connection that we all have, and you've not felt that before, and it's so different than anything else that people generally hear and experience just in the regular world. So you do kind of feel like freaking special. And so that definitely changes over time. You sort of become a lot more balanced, but I really have a good understanding of that, and it's not really arrogance, as some people would maybe say it, or narcissistic, but it is. You are very self-inflated. So with that being said, I was like, well, I knew that I didn't want to reach out to a traditional therapist, because I'm like, well, they're not going to understand, because like I'm seeing ghosts and this is paranormal, and like things were moving around my house, and it was really just quite something. And I'm like, well, I know this isn't like insanity or anything. So I actually went to like more of like a new age type of person that I felt would understand more like the psychic nature of what I was dealing with. And anyway, there was a couple of people I reached out to at the time, and again, it was like pouring gasoline on top of me.